Welcome back. My name is Julius Colley, Work Readiness Instructor for Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance. Thanks for participating in part one of our Job Hunting 101 series. This segment of our program will be dealing with resumes. Resumes are very important. Why? Because they are a portfolio of you, the person that's applying for a job. Basically, resumes is a summary of your skills, your personality, your achievements, and your work history. It's very important to an employer to know who and how and what type of individual they're bringing into their program. Here today on my panel, I have a group of young ladies that are going to assist me today in determining how important a resume is in your job search. There are various types of resumes, and I must say that probably one of the most common would be the chronological resume, one that we see probably every day in individuals looking for a job. Also, we have what we call the functional resume, which for individuals that's coming in that's trying to portray their skills and experiences. Then we have what we call a targeted resume, where we are looking for specific organization or company and job that we are applying for. I would like to ask somebody in the audience today, why do you think a resume is so important?
I think a resume is important because it depends on which type of company that you're trying to find a job in. They want to know what kind of experience you have for that job, if you have any degrees, any specific skills that they're looking for, and you need to put it on your resume to let them know.
Good. Anyone else like to comment?
I also think resume is important because it introduces you prior to that employer meeting you. Some employers, they can read your resume and know if they want to hire that person or know if you're a good fit for that position. So
Excellent.
It determines if they give you a call or not. So I think that's why it's very important to make sure your resume is updated and detailed on what the skills are.
Good. And I think one thing that we want to make clear is that each individual has to understand, they have to find their format of what type of resume that's good for them, especially in their presentation. And the types of resumes that we've introduced, a lot of people come into a lot of centers, and this is one of the starting points, one of the selling points, because you must realize you're selling one of the most important products on the market, and that's yourself. So that means that you don't want to have any negatives. Everything on that resume should be positive. And what employers are looking for now, they're looking for various types of resumes. And when I say various types of resumes, clean-up resumes, resumes that are easy to read, resumes that introduce an individual as it relates to the connection of the type of person that I want in my organization versus the type of person that would come in and not get the job done. Where would we think that it would start making our resume professional? I would like to ask Ms. Luva.
If the strengths are listed and focused on, that would attract attention to the person who.
Good. And I must add on also, there's another important tip that I'd like to give you today, is that a lot of times individuals turn in resumes and it's regular paper out of a copy machine. If we want to compete and be different, we have to understand that we have to present something different. I'm a firm believer that resume paper, the actual professional resume cotton paper, actually gives your resume that professional look. And I think that also would give you an edge with the employer. So maybe that tip we can use. We want to make sure that we stay away from the loud colored resume paper and stay with the more blend and the professional, maybe your gray and your beige, and always your conventional, your white background. But we want to make sure we stay away from the loud type resume paper.
A question, it's not
Yes.
about the resume paper. Say I'm a single parent that came in, or a single mother, never worked in my life, just stayed home and took care of my kids, and now all of a sudden now I have to go and get a job. What resume do you feel I would use? Because I know most resume, it asks for employment background. I have no employment background. So how would I be able to fill out, what resume do you recommend that I use, and how would I fill it out?
I would definitely recommend a functional resume for you. Basically, showing your skills, your transferable skills, showing your experiences, and a lot of that can be used in the employment world. Why? Because a lot of times people don't understand. When you are a domestic worker, I have been out of the working world for a while, you have been doing something. And it may not be something of a monetary value, but it's something that you can use as transferable skills in order to get a job. So I would definitely say a functional resume. Showboat your functional resume. Good question.
And would I be able to come to the workforce and do that?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
We have an abundance of opportunities, classes that you could take that will, individuals will sit with you hand to hand to show you and actually set up a resume that you feel comfortable with, that you can go out and become employed. Okay. In writing your resume, we have to be real careful of our wording. A lot of individuals have no concept of basically how to set a resume up. A resume is a very personal document because a lot of personal information is on that document. We want to make sure that our name on our resume is bold. We want to make sure that we have legit phone numbers. A lot of times on that resume, what kills us, and it seems minute to a lot of people, but it's very important to the employment sector. We have to be very careful with our voicemails, the type of content on that voicemail. We have to be very careful with that email, the kind of information that we're giving out. And the old conventional resume of the objective is now, from my understanding, is obsolete. So I would say that maybe this is your choice. If you feel that this is very important to you in using a resume or a skills summary or profile, and then this is what you need to do. Because on the end result, you are the individual that have to live and stand by this resume. You are the individual that have to take this resume to an interview and sit in front of him or her or that panel and prove yourself to be the worthy candidate to get this job today. I would like to ask another very important question. When setting up a resume, what are some of the things that you think that would make up that resume that would interest an employer?
The skills that the employer is looking for, I would say I would look on their website or look at their job description of what they're looking for and make sure I have the skills that they're looking for and that be maybe the top of my resume. I'm going to assume it's what you're asking.
Yes.
And then list all the jobs that pertain to that particular skill or that
Excellent.
particular job description that they're looking for.
Excellent. And I would further say that it's really important to make sure that you match skills that match you, because those skills is going to be proven pretty soon. Also to match the job. Also another tip that I'd like to give you today, maybe the job that you're applying for, maybe you would like to get the job announcement. And maybe take a look at it and maybe translate some of the same wording into your past experiences on jobs that you've held in the past. You want to make sure that when that employer reads that resume, they are looking at a true candidate to fill this position. In building that resume, there's certain information that we think is very important in getting the eye catcher of the employer. Number one is skills. I do agree, I fully agree, it's the skills. Also, employers are looking for what we call credentials. So that tells me that education is very important. And a lot of times, the alignment of the resume causes an individual to miss out on a job opportunity. That's why agencies like Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance and other partnership agencies, that's why we're there, to make sure that that individual have a place to come so we can help critique that resume and make that resume more professional and visible to the reader. In doing this resume process, first of all, a person must be real with themselves. I've heard the statement, this is a wrong resume. Only true to me if it's a resume that has something on it that's not true. Other than that, I think that we can sit down and help build this resume up to be something positive and actually represents you. So you want to be real careful. In building your resume, we want to make sure that we stick directly to the point. There are some do's on a resume and there are some don'ts on a resume. At this time, I would like to talk about maybe a couple of the do's on the resume. I would like to ask Ms. Snell, what do you think is one of the do's on a resume?
As far as like your contact information, I think it's very important. As far as like your your email
Good.
to put your first and your last name
Good.
instead of making up like nicknames and things like that.
Excellent.
So it's very professional to put your first and your last name as your
Excellent,
email.
because this is something that represents you. What are some of the do's for the resume? I would give a tip that, first of all, resumes should be in the right grammar. A lot of times when we're reviewing resumes, and if you're going to present this resume in a professional way, we want to make sure we watch that grammar. We want to make sure that if you're no longer working on this job, I think your job description and your job duties should be in the past tense, not the future. Because you're confusing me because I'm looking at a date and I'm looking at a date that don't coincide with what you've done on that job as it relates to the past. So we want to make sure that we keep this thing consistent. Also, we want to watch our spelling. Man, this is a do.
Spell check.
Correct
Yeah.
spelling, spell check. And it's a good idea sometimes because sometimes our computers overlook words. So it may be good to get a second or third eye to make sure that when I submit this resume is 99% correct. Because when you're going out looking for a job, you must remember you are competing and you want to be on your A game today. This is the only way that you're going to be successful in getting this job. In completing a resume, there are also some other valuable information other than your skills. Maybe your work history, maybe your working background. A lot of times, words captivate the reader's attention. I'm a firm believer that instead of maybe using sometimes work experience or work history, maybe we can uplift that by saying work professional experience. I love to read things that are professional, and I'm pretty sure the person that you're going out for that interview today also loves it. So how do you feel about the text, the topics on that resume as it relates to your employment history?
I feel it sounds pretty good to have professional work experience. If I was an employer trying to hire someone, I may pick up that resume faster than picking up one that just says skills on it. So, I
Excellent.
mean, I think that is a very good idea.
Excellent. And now that we've talked about the do's, what about the don'ts? What about the don'ts on the resume? A lot of individuals actually don't know when to put the pen down or when to stop. So
No
what would
ram-
you consider one of the don'ts, Ms.
No rambling.
You want to be direct and to the point.
Exactly.
So that leads me to say that maybe your resume should be in maybe one of two type of contents. Maybe a paragraph or in a what type of form? A bullet form. And the thing with a resume that makes the resume complicated, a lot of times it's the readers. We have to understand that sometimes we may give out 10 resumes and it may be in a paragraph form, and you may be giving it to an individual or a group of individuals that are not readers. So that means that we may have to make some adjustments. So sometimes we may have to have two different styles of resumes to please everybody that we're sending or presenting that resume to. Ms. Snell, did you have something to say about that?
I was going to say not to put like anything negative about your past employer on
Excellent.
there.
And also, at this point, I don't think I would put a salary on the resume.
Right.
And I also possibly wouldn't put a picture. Maybe if I'm going for that particular job, maybe a modeling position, maybe that would be acceptable. But other than that, that would be something that I would detach from my resume. Yes, ma'am.
Would a don't be to have a one page? I mean, a don't would be not to have more than one page on the resume, or how? What would you say about that?
There are a lot of cliches out there about a one-page resume. But I'm a firm believer that the information that I put on my resume, if I believe that it's information that's going to help me get this job, and then my resume may be more than one page. Because I'm looking at those individuals that have 30 and 40 years of employment history. It's very difficult to get a one-page resume out of that. I want to make sure that I put the important information down to make sure that they get the full array of what and who Julius Colley is. So the one-page theory out there, I guess a lot of people, I would leave it up to them, but I would say that this is a judgment call. It's something that you have to make that judgmental call on. But acceptable in the corporate world is a 1 or 2 page resume. To further this discussion, there are other information that we need on a resume that sometimes can highlight who we are, and that may be an interest. And when you say interest, what are we talking about?
Something, an interest of something that interests you the most that may pertain to that particular job, I would
Yes, I would think that you're right on target. A lot of people would like to know, what is it that you are involved in other than seeking employment? A lot of people do some valuable, very valuable community work. I think that needs to be on there. You work with kids on a daily basis, or you work with the elderly. Anything that you think that would go on to captivate someone's attention. We want to be real careful not to put political standards on there, or you want to be real careful not to go into personal information that's not related actually to finding a job. It's very important because you don't want to close the door on something that you had the opportunity of landing. Yes, ma'am.
That would be like volunteer work?
Yes, ma'am. That's what it would be, your interest, volunteer work. Currently, I'm involved with coaching Little League football, and I can't wait to get to that part of my resume where I put that down, because I want people to know that I'm involved in individuals that are going to be leaders in our community one day and individuals that's going to be our future. I want to make sure that they understand that I'm a part of that. There's a lot of programs that offer youth programs. Maybe I can be a part of that youth program. So that resume is basically a mirror image of you. And you have to sell yourself to that employer as saying that the other 14 people are sitting outside. This is my job. That's part of that resume. Any more questions to end this session out? Yes, ma'am.
Would you recommend a cover letter? As I look through the book, I see that they have a cover letter. So would you recommend having a cover letter with a resume?
Personally, yes, ma'am, I would represent a cover letter on my resume. Basically because it's a short introduction of who you are. But now there are some companies will just want to get to the meat factor of your resume. So sometimes you may have to do what we call some research to find out what companies are looking for. That this company actually require me to have a cover letter, that this company just actually require me to have a resume. That's part of your responsibility of developing that resume, but I would suggest to everyone that you have what we call a cover letter, which is a basic short introduction of your resume. At this time, I'd like to take a break, and we'll be back with the next segment. Thank you very much.
Employers, you can search candidate resumes and research labor market information at employflorida.com.